Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, video gamers. This is the Start podcast, and this is our first ever. What would we call it, Marshy?
Special guest
Special guest. Yeah, first ever.
featured.
Our first ever special
First
guest.
ever special. Yeah.
Our first ever special guest is Chris from Aberrant Realities. He's a gaming developer based in Canberra, Australia. And you can find him on his website, aberrantrealities.com. His Twitter, at ABREALDEV. Yeah.
Yep.
And you can find him on his Steam store, Steam, https /store.steampowered.com/app/86955/double_shot_. Yeah, and we'll make sure we put that on our socials as well. All right, so Chris, introduce yourself.
Well, as you've said before, as you've introduced me so well, my name is Chris. I am a game designer at Aberrant Realities, and we've just come back from PAX a few weeks ago. We've just released our game Double Shot into early access, and you've so graciously invited me back onto your podcast.
Yes, this was a previous podcast I used to do. If for all our new for our new listeners, so I appreciate you coming back onto our podcast. I appreciate you coming back to talk to me and to my friend Marshy.
Well, look, it's always fun. I met you guys for the first time at PAX, which was super exciting.
Yeah,
it was really good. Seeing you had a massive line the whole time.
Yeah.
From what we saw, so
it was a long weekend.
Yes.
You look tired.
So we'll just touch on PAX since we're already on that. So with events like PAX, how does this contribute to your end result in a game? Like, does it give you information that you wanted for the development of Double Shot VR?
I think it was really helpful to us in the sense that we got to see the general public's reaction to it, which was something that because we haven't had that much exposure in general, it was super cool to have that level of exposure, to be kind of the center of the attention for that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a really good spot. As you can see, we were like on the corner, so we had the EB store behind us, we had the 5 other awesome indie showcase games next to us, and it just made the whole thing really, really cool. And such a good atmosphere, and people responded really well to that as well. They responded well to the booth.
Yeah.
I found it really good for you guys too, being right up the front as soon as they walked in from the main entrance. You're right there, sort of thing.
Yeah,
that would have been really good.
Apparently that's a new thing that they've done, where they've moved the indie section to the front, and I think it definitely attracted more people than it normally would.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So, did you get any decent feedback from that made you change your game in any way?
Look, I got a couple of follow-up emails that were super handy to read. Generally, people just love the game. It's kind of hard to give feedback in the spur of the moment. We had a couple of really good bits and pieces. We've also been getting a fair bit of playtesting done and all that sort of thing. That's been really helpful to us. And as our market is growing a little bit more, like even looking at some of the reviews that we've been left on Steam, it's been handy to see what's going on there, and then kind of focusing our efforts based on that.
Yeah. So you mentioned it was in early access?
Yeah, so we basically had what we were showing off at PAX with a little bit more as a build, so a couple more levels and stuff in there. And we thought, look, we're not like we wanted something actionable that we could do at PAX, which was to sell game keys, and we decided that, well, releasing it in early access was probably the best way that we could make sure that we got those sales, that we got that feedback, that we would be happy with what we were actually putting out there.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that we were really concerned about, was when you're putting something on early access, I think you always want to put your best foot forward for fear of any repercussions there. and I think that we did okay in terms of what we have delivered, but there's definitely room there for growth.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
So, were you going to say something, Marshall?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that way of marketing as well can help you out as well for bugs and things like that, just in case there is any that you might not have, or you might have missed, and it's just kind of good marketing as well for new, like a new market or a diverse market for people that didn't go to PAX, but their friends did, and they've told them about it. And I can understand how putting your game out there with little exposure, like you said, it'd be very hard to choose the right level to kind of be confident going out there with, because I know some of the other games out there, they didn't really utilize some of their better levels they could have to grab people's attentions. More of your AAA sort of games, like with Kingdom Hearts and things like that. But how did you find choosing the right level or kind of going forward with it?
I think
What?
we had spent a lot of time, and this is leading back to the thing that you said, where you always have to show off your best level. I think we had a level that we had spent a lot of time working on,
Yeah,
and that was the one that we were showing people. That was the one that we were saying, "This is what the game looks like," and
yeah,
that has always been kind of our starter level, for lack of a better term, because it's the first one that you unlock.
Yep.
And it's kind of one that we designed to basically be just this nice, like, soft flowing level where the bad guys are always coming at you in your cone of vision, so you can kind of keep track of them. It's basically just one of the easier levels. And because our game actually has a pretty steep learning curve to it, not because it's particularly difficult, there's just a lot of information that we're throwing at the player.
Oh, okay, so a lot of, okay.
Yeah, it means that if we're going to show something off, we need to make sure that it's an enjoyable experience, because if you have people who are just sitting there kind of trying to work out the game at the same time they're getting shot in the head, then it's not really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. No, well, obviously it was a great choice because people kept lining up to go to it, and now with the sales of your game keys for early access, you've obviously gone the right way.
Have you hit your target that you wanted to for your early access, or are you still aiming for that target?
I think that because this is the first game we've ever released, we weren't sure what kind of targets we wanted to set. Sales were about roughly what we expected.
Yep.
To us, I think that, look, while sales are great, we're obviously going to push forward and with our marketing and all that sort of thing to try and get some more sales, where this was just a really awesome kind of project to work on.
Yeah.
And, the fact that it got nominated for PAX and all that sort of thing was just kind of a nice little sidebar of, like, enjoyment.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
That would have been great, but yeah, go on.
So...
No, I was going to...
you go, sorry.
No, I was just saying that would have been a great kind of motivator to keep pushing on and branch out as well into other VR games or even outside of VR games. That looked like a fun game.
Yeah, and it was. It's kind of a game that is like, we've purposely made it really fun to watch as well by one of the programmers added in like a spectator camera that switches perspectives. We've got the scoreboard and all that up there, and it's just fun to watch people in VR.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at purchasing a VR for Christmas for myself. So I'm actually really psyching myself up for it. And your game is something that I was interested in, including a bunch of other bigger games like Beat Saber.
Yeah, Beat Saber has just been doing amazingly. And a lot of it, obviously, it's a fun game in of itself, but their marketing was just on.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, the first time I ever saw it was a Facebook video that was just going around. I didn't even know they were actually going to put it into a game, like at that stage, because this was like a while ago that I saw it, and it was just sick to look at, like swords and shit.
It's a fun looking game, that one. But so I'm looking forward to getting my VR system. I keep talking about it. It's something I keep talking about. So yeah, so what is your job?
My job is mostly at the moment, um, basically just diving into spreadsheets is what I've been doing for the past few days. Just making sure that everything is kind of up to scratch in terms of our in terms of like our at the moment I'm working on a lot of the monetary values for things in our game. So obviously there's no microtransactions, but you know, you're a bartender, you're earning money, you
Yeah.
want to be able to spend that money on things. So we've added things like you know, voice packs for the bar. We've added weapon attachments, so like one of the weapons now explodes when you throw it away.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
one of them shoots like kind of noxious poison steam clouds everywhere. We've now got an airstrike you can call in, so you just pull the pin, throw the smoke grenade, and an airstrike comes down.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That sounds awesome.
I
So,
think when
uh,
we were designing stuff for Double Shot, it's always just been about making it as dumb as possible.
yeah,
And I think I think we've kind of
Well, as long as you have fun doing it, what's the, you know, that's great. It's sort of like our podcast.
you just have fun doing it, and it'll come, I guess. Why not?
Hmm. Well,
absolutely.
is that what got you into the field you're working in, or is it just your love for games and you just thought I could do that? I'm going to create mine and go for it.
I think there is a cockiness there at the start where you think that making game that you're going to make the next, you know, Skyrim or whatever, and you sort of go like, you know, this is, and then by about the first year or year and a half, you start to realize just how truly and utterly screwed you are in a lot of ways, and it
Like any
becomes
creative.
it becomes more about finding a way to survive and a way to still get to do what you enjoy.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah,
because at the moment you'd be more freelancing sort of for yourselves, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And like
Yeah.
we've had a fair bit amount of contract work simply due to the fact that we're working in virtual reality and we have that experience,
That's
and
great.
that's been helpful. But to be a sustainable game studio requires so much more than what we currently have.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I can understand that.
yeah. Like,
And
oh, sorry, go on.
that's not to say that we're going to stop making games or anything like that. That's more of a statement of uh, appreciation, especially down in Melbourne, for a lot of the companies that are able to do that full time and are able to make these absolutely amazing games. Because one of the big things that kind of blew me away when we went down to Melbourne was just seeing that kind of sea of like made in Melbourne games in the indie section and just the quality that was being
Produced.
there, and the fact that you know you're rubbing shoulders with games there like Ashen,
Yeah,
games like Downfall, and just all these really cool indie games that are really heavy hitters in terms of their creators and all that sort of thing. We were talking to the
Yeah.
guys from Soundful for a while, and they were just such like genuinely nice dudes, genuinely enjoyable to talk to. And one of the things that someone did mention at one point was just how tight knit and like friendly the Australian indie game community was,
yeah,
and everyone was like
Mm,
really kind to each other. Everyone was helping each other out, and that's something that I've noticed as well. Is just if we have
that's
a
great.
question, there is someone around there who will answer it or introduce it. We had a company who we became friends with through you know a series of circumstances on Twitter from Melbourne, and they were like sending people over to our booth, and we were sending people over to their booth. Like you know,
yeah,
you
yeah,
enjoyed
That's great.
VR, try this game, and it's just it makes the whole PAX experience great.
Better.
yeah.
Yeah, it
So
does.
much
Yeah,
better.
that's great. And you could probably like coming from me not being a game developer or anything like that, just love to play games. Hearing you guys tell us to go to another booth is kind of reassuring that
It's going to be a
you're all
good
kind of
experience.
tight knit. Yeah, it's going to be a great experience, and you all appreciate each other, and that gives a really good vibe. So, I mean, I like that sort of community with any creative industry or discipline. So,
Yeah,
more for it.
one of the hardest things, at least in our case, and I don't want to speak too generally, but for us has been how do you let people know that your game is actually good? And
Yeah,
Without
I
sounding
think
cocky.
without sounding too cocky and without telling them something that they've all heard before, because you've all heard, this is going to be the latest and greatest thing.
Yeah.
In terms of open world, procedurally generated, and all those buzzwords that get thrown around a lot. And a lot of them are thrown around, rightly so, because the game does contain it. It is a selling point of the game. But it's so easy to get lost in the noise of what the gameplay actually is and what the game should be. And that's been one of the hardest things for us is how do we actually... And that's something that no one really teaches you. In terms of what they teach you in game development, they teach you how to program something, how to design something. They don't really teach you how to talk about your game in a business sense, how to say, look, we're going to sell it for this. And that's something that my postgraduate studies covered a little bit when I graduated from AIE and I went into the graduate diploma there. That was really handy. But there was just so much there that we didn't know that would have made our release so much better.
Yeah.
No, I can see that. Yeah, that's yeah. I can see how you struggle. Like to not struggle, but just now that you look back on it, you're like, shit, I could have said this, or I could have said that, and it could have influenced
something else.
Better.
Yeah, because especially when you're selling for VR, which has such a small player base, every sale counts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
VR doesn't have the I'm assuming it's getting bigger because of the prices are coming down a lot. Especially like the PSVR. Are you on PSVR?
We're currently not on PSVR.
Okay.
And I say that currently.
Yeah.
We're not really sure what the plan is from here. We're still kind of talking about it and making plans and
doing
all that sort of thing. PSVR is really interesting because it's one of the headsets that's actually sold quite well.
Because of the price. It's the price. It's it's $100 minimum cheaper. Like $100 at least $100 cheaper than the next one up. Like it's and that's the first thing I looked at was a PSVR, but I'm going to go with something computer based instead.
Anything about Vive or Rift?
No, I'm going mixed reality headset.
Awesome, yes. So they're one of the cooler headsets out there, honestly, just because they're doing something different that's interesting, and there's a lot more of a competitive price.
Yeah, it's an extra $100 and something over to PSVR, and then I get to plug it into my computer, which is a better system in the end than a PlayStation, a higher capacity system that I can play more of a range of games on.
Yeah, and our game technically works on Windows Mixed Reality.
Okay, cool. I'll be getting a copy 100%.
I don't think we were 100% aware that it did work on Windows Mixed Reality, but we got a Steam review saying that it worked on Windows Mixed Reality, and we were like, perfect. We can say it works on Windows Mixed Reality now.
Yeah, because you use the Oculus and the Vive, don't you, normally?
Yeah. And it's easy for us to use them because we got dev kits, or we sort of paid for them out of our own money, and it's a much more justifiable cost for it.
Yeah.
But for your average consumer, it's kind of that holy shit, do I really want to invest in this technology mode?
Yeah, and technology that's forever upgrading. Like it's still in that early stage of where it's still a bit. It's just like it's anything can go in that. Where we're at the moment with VR, I think.
Absolutely, it becomes that whole early adopter thing, and for a lot of people, that's a scary problem.
Yeah, especially when the prices are in $500 plus for a basic Oculus or a Vive. I think they're a bit cheaper now, but I'm not quite sure because I haven't really looked into them too much. But yeah, that price tag is like, oh man, I'm not sure if I want to go $500 in on something that I might not like, or I might not play that much, or I might not use that much.
Yeah,
which hurts your sales, I guess, as well, because as you said, there's not as big of a player base as a standard indie game on your Steam or on like a Nintendo Switch or something like that.
I think we always knew that going in that would be the case. So I don't think it was ever like a um. I don't think that was ever like a deal breaker for us. Was the fact that we might not make as much money by
Yeah,
doing VR. I think we just wanted to make something in VR, and that's
Well,
yeah,
sometimes money doesn't always lead you to do great things, I guess. So, I mean, you made a game. Are you proud of it? You know?
yeah. And honestly, I think that there's going to be a point soon where we say, look, this was cool to make. I enjoyed this. Let's go and do something
Yeah.
yeah,
and move on to another game. Because I think if you spend too much time kind of festering on what has been and thinking about what could have been, then you're
yeah.
going to end up just driving yourself up the wall with
Mm,
all of the decisions
Those
that you
thoughts.
did or didn't make. Sort of.
yeah,
And you'll be stuck in that time, kind of in that vicious cycle. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
okay,
can see that.
so VR games are becoming are quickly becoming more and more popular. So like in 5 years' time, do you think they will have overtaken systems like the PlayStation, Xbox, or will they always keep this niche? I guess the word is for it, that they're just like that system that is a cool system, but it's not a PlayStation or your Xbox.
I think it's going to just become like another PlayStation or Xbox where it's like a preferred platform. Um, I think a lot of people, there still are a lot of stigmas that need to be overcome with VR, i.e., motion sickness and
Mm-hmm.
all of those other things that people kind of are still a little bit worried about.
Oh, I get it.
I think, yeah,
Yeah,
and it was a very real thing there for a while when you were using like the old Oculus headsets and all that sort of thing, where you were sitting still and the picture was moving and all that sort of thing. It was just awful. Now it's a lot better. I think some people still would get motion sickness, yeah, and it's like, who's going to make games for them? I think one of the biggest hurdles that Oculus, or that, sorry, virtual reality in general needs to overcome is accessibility, and how you're making sure that your platform is as inclusive as possible for the majority of people playing, and how you can deliver everyone the best experience that they can possibly have.
yeah, yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah. I agree with that 100%.
Because, like, that's the whole reason why I have been avoiding VR, because I do get motion sickness from, like, I get nauseated pretty quickly from it.
Yeah, so do I.
So, it's, yeah, if,
But there's
I don't know
games
if it's just me or,
like like Beat Saber, and I'm assuming like even your game where you're kind of moving your body instead of just sitting still.
yeah,
And,
And that's the huge saving grace for a lot of people who get motion sick. Like, it's the fact that when you control the movements, it makes a much more sense to your brain as
yeah,
opposed to everything moving around you.
yep,
Um, and even just general accessibility stuff. Like, one of the big things that we were like, shit, when we were showcasing was our bar is at a certain height, so people who were shorter than the shortest person on the dev team couldn't see over the bar.
uh,
And it was kind of this point where we were like, well, we need to make sure that people who might not be like as tall as us for whatever reason need to be able to see over the bar so that they can actually play our game.
yeah, yeah. So
oh, okay,
like,
And
yep,
oops, sorry, go on.
it's all of those things that are going to be one of the bigger hurdles, or
Yeah,
one of the many hurdles that need to be overcome, is to ensure that, and even the fact that there's a guy who in our co-working space who only has one arm, and he wanted to play our game, and it was like, well, I can't give you both controllers, so
yeah,
you got to try and play one-handed. And look, to his credit, he was able to do it. But it was kind of that point of like, well, how do we make this game now accessible for someone like him who, can only use one controller, or
yeah,
is
yeah,
sitting down while they're playing, sort of thing. And it's all those considerations that I think will make or break virtual reality, and making sure that you're not alienating your audience before they even get to sit down and play your game.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Definitely, that makes complete sense. And that, I guess that's a huge hurdle that has to be overcome eventually. But it's when.
I mean, well, we just spoke about Spyro, about the whole subtitle
Yeah,
scenario.
now the case there was that subtitles just weren't included
Yeah,
in the game.
yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. and they just didn't find it feasible
To add them in.
to add them in, and another excuse was to make it more like the original. Apparently, the original never had any, which I don't remember because it was that long ago. But
I'll have to Google that after.
yeah,
That's interesting to me because there's currently this debate about making games for everyone, and it's like if you're straight off the bat ensuring that people can't play your game purely because you've failed to include a basic feature, it becomes like, well, at what point do you say this needs to be included in a game at the bare minimum? And I think that VR still hasn't had these are the accessibility options that need to be included at a bare minimum moment, because when you say a game doesn't have subtitles in it, you're like, well, how the heck are people with hearing impairments meant to play it? How the heck are people
that like subtitles?
Yeah, that just want to play with subtitles. Like, how are they meant to play it? And I think VR hasn't had that gotcha moment of these are the problems.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, I'm speaking from my own personal experience here of these are the problems.
Yeah.
That haven't been quite addressed yet, and I think that that's something that we're kind of interested in looking at a little bit more and making sure that we're addressing in our games.
Yeah.
Well, if you start, it could be like a domino effect. Other game like developers, it could change the whole VR industry for the better, and get that kind of attention from those people who have those impairments or illnesses or something like that, or health issues, that could be like, well, you know what, Spyro didn't do this for me, like for PlayStation. I'm going to get a VR. They're delivering to my needs.
Yeah.
Bang.
Well, look, if people want to come from Spyro straight to VR, they're more than welcome.
I was just using it as a recent example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you are completely correct there. It's like,
who's going to include me?
And it's hurting people in the long. It's hurting companies in the long term more than it is to not include it.
Yeah, definitely. As Marshy said, we spoke about this in a bit in length during this our recording of this week's podcast. We did another one earlier. So this is our second one today. Go us.
Kick a goal.
Twice as many as 2 weeks ago. Doing well.
So yeah, like not including something so simple, like it. I can't imagine it being super hard
or cost effective, really.
Yeah,
I mean, inefficient.
Yeah, like
I mean,
like
fuck.
Do you have voice actors in your game?
We do. However, we kind of reached that point where it was like we made sure that anything they were saying wasn't essential to the game. So we've essentially got the situation of you don't actually need sound to play the game, because it actually got to a point where we were showcasing the game without sound. We were like, people are still getting it. And I think the problem with doing that is budget starts to play a factor in including things like subtitles and all that. But I think at the end of the day, it eventually becomes money well spent.
Yeah.
So it's mostly about weighing that up. Like, essentially, we've made Double Shot at literally for $0, essentially. So none of us have received in any way, shape, or form any monetary compensation from making Double Shot, and that's been our lives for the past 2 years. I'm not saying that as a good thing. And there was this recent conversation about crunch and making sure that you're treating yourself fairly and all that sort of thing. Yeah. We most certainly did not treat ourselves fairly while we were making this, but we're proud of what we made. And I think that when you're having these discussions about these ethical, I want to call them dilemmas to an extent.
Yep.
Indies have a pretty hard time of it trying to do these things themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that unless the money is there, it's pretty hard to pull it off. That being said, I think that it needs to become more and more stock standard to do these things, and I think that's something that even we as a company need to work on more, is making sure that our games are as accessible as possible to people.
Yeah, definitely. I,
No, I agree.
I can't not agree with that. So we'll move on.
So, would you have any other advice for anyone who is just starting in game development? Or
It depends on what they're trying to achieve. If they're trying to make a career out of this,
yeah,
um,
Don't do it.
there's look. I'm sure that six months ago, a very tired and jaded me probably would have said that. I think that it is achievable, but I think that you've got to understand that the journey there isn't exactly going to be the
rainbows and
easiest.
flowers.
Yeah, it's not going to be the easiest one. I think that there's a misconception that you need a formal education, or you need to go to a game development school in order to become a game developer. It helps, but if you're pretty happy with your own skills, I think that one of the biggest or best things that going to a game school did for me, at least, was it exposed me to the kind of people I'm going to be work with. It taught me how to work in a team. It taught me how to remove my ego from projects, how to get along with people, sort of thing. It's so easy to have these projects that are so ego driven, and so they're your projects, they're your baby sort of things, that you become quite blind to the flaws in them. You become extremely protective of them, and I think that that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of soft skills at game development school, as well as the actual hard skills of how to create things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big kind of tipping point for a lot of people, is having those soft skills versus not having them. So it all just basically amounts to making sure that I'm going to try and bring this question back around, because I've kind of taken it off on a...
No, that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine.
Bringing it back around to surrounding yourself with people different than yourself while you're making your game, because they're going to bring unique perspectives to your game.
Yep, I agree.
Making sure that the game that you're making, if you're making a game to make money, understand how you're going to make the money. If you're making a game to make yourself feel good, make whatever you want.
Yeah.
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 And
I guess that's
there's a big indie community around who definitely want to help.
Well, you know what? That's great for anyone that is listening, and if you do want to start development, at least they will feel a little bit more welcomed into the idea of indie games and even creating them. So I feel like those were really great tips, especially with the whole immersing yourself around different kinds of people, because you will have different kinds of perspectives and different ideas that can float around that you could manipulate in your way if you're going solo on a project, or even if you're working in a team, which working in a team would be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
It is and it isn't. You kind of have to do what you all want in a way.
Yeah.
At least that's our team dynamic. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But what I think is the big takeaway from us working in a team is make sure that you really want to work together. And we were pretty lucky because we all did want to work together.
Yep.
Yeah.
But look, that's something that you just discover along the way. It's not like a make or break. If I worked with this person once and it sucked and now we're stuck forever. The truth is that you're not stuck. You have options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I get that.
So, what are some do's and don'ts when making a game like Double Shot VR, or any game like that? Yeah, any game for that matter.
I think one of the biggest things while we're making Double Shot was just keeping our scope small. And you think that you're keeping your scope of your game small, but the truth is you're not really. It's actually becoming this huge monolithic thing that's going to be impossible to finish. So, and this is leading back to that whole kind of kill your own ideas sort of thing. Is making sure that you can keep your ideas nice and condensed is going to be a huge boon to you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I got no
And just
idea
have-
about game development, so the
Just
code.
have fun. Just have fun doing it as well.
Yeah,
Like, don't
You
forget
should totally do one.
doing
Like,
Yeah.
to have fun doing it is pretty much like anything in life, isn't it? Like, just have fun. If you're not having fun doing it, it's hard to do it after a while.
Sometimes
even
it's like
motivation.
sometimes it's like any other job where it feels like work, and it should feel like work. But
Yeah.
if it's getting to the point where you're burning yourself out on it, you're miserable, then you've kind of got to look at why, like how you got there and why you're still doing this if it makes you feel that way. And I think that's a pretty big lesson that a fair few people who I went through AIE with had was, is this really what I want to do? Like, I enjoy playing games. Does that mean that I really want to make
Oh,
games?
what happened?
Yeah. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that you made that decision within yourself that you do want to make video games because you enjoy video games.
I'm an incredibly stubborn person.
Yeah. So, what got you into indie development or gaming development?
I think it was always just something that I kind of wanted to do. Like, I think when I looked at all the jobs around and I was like, this all sucks. And the idea of making games, the idea of making stories that other people could enjoy was the interesting thing to me, was the thing that kind of made me go, well, if I'm going to be doing something, I might as well be doing something I enjoy.
Yeah.
And along the way, I had to make those conscious decisions that this is a lifestyle choice. If I'm going to do it this way, this is, it's going to require me to do this, this, and this in order to pay bills, in order to, keep the rent coming in and all that sort of thing. And that was a particularly hard decision because in a lot of ways it felt like my life was going backwards, not forwards.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, and this was after a pretty extensive chats with the team, and we had this moment of clarity where one of them said, I'll never forget what he said. He basically said, this is what you want to do, isn't it? And along the way, I had kind of forgotten completely that this was what I wanted to do. I had simply been focusing on, the idea of having money, the idea of, living my life a certain way. And it took a bit, but I kind of went back to the whole idea of, well, no, I want to live my life this way. And it was a really good moment for me because it taught me exactly what it was that I wanted to do with what I was doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's some great insight there.
Yeah, that's yeah, no, you really do take you really do kind of go away from what actually got you into it. I've noticed that because I studied a bit of audio. I never finished my course or anything like that because I could just YouTube it, as I found out. But it did teach me the soft skills like what you were speaking about before, and even just making music. It's the same concept, just different discipline, really.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like, I went off the path, obviously, a little bit, but I do want to go back into it, but more just for fun rather than work, more as a hobby sort of thing. And I think that's fine to do.
And
yeah,
a lot of people treat
but for you,
game dev like that. Like, it's a hobby to them. It's, bust out a game every now and then.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's fine. Like, I want people to do that. I want people to game dev comfortably to their own time, their own wants, their own needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, however, it's become a lifestyle choice because of how deeply invested I am in our company and what I do and all that sort of thing. And to me, once you make that decision, you start to really understand your own motivations for why you're doing it. And just if you said where you've understood that you realistically want to do it as a hobby, and it's going to be the kind of hobby that could eventually lead into something more serious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, whether you like that is provided that you obviously want it to, you might not want it to lead into something more serious. But I think the idea that you need to be either a game developer or you're not is a thing of the past nowadays because of how easy it is for people to create their own games. And obviously how easy it is for people to publish their own games to a storefront like Steam.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nintendo's bringing that out as well. That it's just super easy. You buy the pack for X amount of dollars. I don't even know how much it is, and you can put your own game on there.
Which is great because suddenly you have this whole new platform that you're targeting.
Yeah, and it's good for indie games, and it's good for Nintendo. They're making a killing out of it, obviously.
Oh, their decision to allow indie devs onto their platform, I think, is just an absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And it's weird because Nintendo's always been that company that's just been weird about stuff like that.
Very unorthodox.
Yeah, very unorthodox by Nintendo. Like they'd shut down a indie game that kind of copied them, but they'd shut down an indie game because of that. And now they're letting indie games onto their platform. I don't know. Like it's a Nintendo thing to do what they've done.
I think it's a very big attitude adjustment on their part, and I think it's one that's doing them a lot of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, it will. It'll put them back in the ballpark. Well, PlayStation, Xbox, and
it's just a weird. I like Nintendo. I never shit on Nintendo because I'm a big Nintendo fan, but it's such a Nintendo thing to be weird like that.
So I mean, Luke and I grew up on Nintendo. I don't know about yourself. I don't know if you were younger or older, but like.
I had a Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
In the late, I want to say late 90s, like early 2000s. I had one. I was pretty late to the party with that. I eventually diverged into more PC, Xbox sort of thing. Yeah. But I think one of the things that always stayed with me was that, and I can kind of map out parts of my life based on games, and I think a lot of other game fans can do that as well, where they can say like, oh, 2012 was, just using me for an example, was when I discovered Dota 2, and now 5,000 hours later, like I'm still playing, I'm watching all the tournaments and doing all that sort of thing. And I think that there's this huge resurgence at the moment of that whole nostalgia. And I think that that's something that Nintendo has always been extremely good at, is saying like, people love the NES. Well, here's a little tiny NES that you can play. Like, my partner bought a Switch a week or so ago, and I've been watching her play it and watching her enjoy Let's Go Eevee and all that sort of thing. And she's actually roped me into like catching Eevees on Pokemon Go for her and all that sort of thing. look,
yeah.
I actually find Pokemon Go quite enjoyable because I do a lot of walking. And it just it makes sense to sort of have something to do at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, she was. We've been trying to get her all of the evolutions or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I'm not a Pokemon fan, by the way, so this is all
all new to you.
Anyway, she evolved a Flareon, and she was like, I didn't really want Flareon, but that's fine. I'll get the next one. And then the next one was a Flareon, and she goes, if this third one is a Flareon, then I'm probably just gonna leave. And the third one was not a Flareon, so I'm very thankful to still have my girlfriend with me today. But it kind of brought up this conversation that we both had about her love for Nintendo, and the fact was that it was this thing that was a formative part of her life, and she did feel somewhat embarrassed by the fact that she still liked Pokemon. And I was like, it's not really something to be embarrassed about. I don't think liking any individual thing is something to be embarrassed about. And I think now more than ever, people like to cling on to what made them happy, especially when they were younger.
Yeah.
And that's why you have things like, the Crash Bandicoot remake, the Spyro remake,
Yeah,
and it also it makes consumers very happy. It makes customers extremely happy.
yeah,
And even Blizzard, with their announcement of Classic World of Warcraft, have kind of jumped on that bandwagon and said like they're essentially making a statement about the state of their game, where they're saying retail WoW is fine, but we know that you all want to play the WoW that you played. What was it now? Probably 14 years ago or something like that.
yeah. It's been a while since that came
Yeah,
out.
yeah, and people are absolutely crazy for
Yeah.
it. They're just like they're so ready to
Jump.
jump
Spend the rest
to
of their lives.
yeah to jump back to that time.
Yeah,
And I don't think it has anything necessarily to do with the quality of the game. And I'm not saying that Classic WoW was not a quality game. I'm saying that people just want to return to that time.
yeah, definitely. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you see
I
the
agree with that.
consoles of the SNES and the NES Mini that they sell like hotcakes. Like, you can't pick one up after release day because they're gone. They're all gone. Obviously a cash grab from Nintendo. So, and why not? Because that nostalgia is based in people, and people love nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, look.
I wasn't going anywhere. I was not going anywhere with that.
Well, I mean, like it's so true, and it's something that we actually kind of relied a little bit on with Double Shot, where it was around the time when things like Kung Fury and like Synthwave had been around for a couple of years, but it was really starting to take off. And recently, it took me 7 years to watch this movie called Drive. I don't know if either of you have seen Drive with
Yeah,
Ryan Gosling.
years and years ago.
Oh yes, I have.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
have.
and the whole thing is shot like an 80s movie
Yeah,
with all
Yeah.
those beautiful color palettes and camera angles and the story and all that, and it's something that we relied on a little bit to kind of market our game as like, hey, it's 80s, it's synthwave, it's cool, like
yeah,
and it
Retro,
works.
man.
It
works.
works. People who would have absolutely no interest in a game like that whatsoever are still drawn to our game because it's. And I've seen people like who have reviewed our game or have purchased our game or played our game. Because I'm a bit of a stalker, I look at their Steam profiles and stuff,
yeah,
and they're just they're just all about synthwave. And I really appreciate understanding our market a little bit more, because one of the things that we were concerned about was, is the synthwave part of our game really a selling point? And it turns out that it is.
yeah, yeah. And
Well,
people
it's
like
good.
in the 80s and stuff, they're the ones with the money that are spending the money on these
Yeah.
on the VR systems now. So you're kind of like doubling up on your idea that, okay, we want an 80s game, and the people with the money are from the 80s that are going to buy how old's that, 30? No, wait. Yeah, 30.
Oh, 30s, 40s. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about the market that we're
Aiming
that-
for, yeah.
I think it's people with disposable income, basically. And
Yeah.
that's not going to be your 13-year-olds and your 14-year-olds and whatever.
No.
Not that we would ever sell them our game, because our game is quite a mature game, so we don't want to, But I think that when you're making a game, it's important to understand what kind of market you're appealing to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, what do you see yourself and Double Shot in, say, 5 years' time? You see it growing, or you see it just kind of? Oh, I guess you're hoping it's going to grow in 5 years, but like,
Look, if it sells 1 million copies, it sells 1 million copies. I think it's going to be one of those hidden gems on Steam that people will occasionally dig up. I'm kind of happy to divorce myself from it and to say this was a great project. I don't regret a second of working on it, but I want to do something different creatively now.
Yep.
Yep.
Because that was fun. It was a great arcadey sort of game. I kind of call it PAX bait in a way, because it was a game that works really well at PAX because it's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I think now we kind of want to find what it is that excites us in terms of making games. And that was certainly something that excited us, but I think if we can be a little bit more diverse, or we can find a model that works where you can basically build something from the ground up, then we're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, So
Yeah.
we'll go a little bit more into this. What do you want to make? Like in 5 years' time, what's the next game that Aberrant Realities is gonna produce?
Look, man, I think there's going to be a whole brand new genre. I think that we're currently in this infancy of what VR games can be, and I think there's going to be like the most amazing experiences that we can't even fathom in 5 years' time, and I think that's what we're probably going to be.
Yeah, I have you seen Sword Art Online?
Yeah, and look,
I love that
I'm
show.
I'm not particularly keen to like trap anyone in that game, and I think I honestly think that MMOs have had their day. Um, I think that there's a lot less interest in MMOs based on even looking at like
Grind.
even looking at like the market, and you look at there's like 3 or 4 MMOs that are just doing well, and it's like how do you even begin to break into that market?
Mm,
And
yeah,
I think that VR is definitely going to get more immersive, but I think that the next couple of years, not even the next 5 years, I think the next 5 years will be where it arrives, but I think the next couple of years are going to be the where it actually pivots and what direction it goes in,
yeah,
because you've got places doing these like super cool things with like like augmented reality and all that sort of thing, and that's really cool.
yeah.
I'm just really interested to see where it all goes in the end, because I have a feeling that it's going to go in a direction that we can't even fathom right now.
I'm thinking
Well,
there's a
I'm keen to.
YouTube video out there. I'll post it. I'll link it one day. I've spoken about it heaps, but it's this person wearing these glasses that are AR and I guess it's mixed reality where you've got your screen on in your glasses and you get to click your buttons on your screen and stuff like that. I reckon that's where we're heading. Is that where we're walking down the street and we can be on our computer at the same time?
And ideally, yes.
And
Yeah, it is going to result in probably a fair few more accidents, but
yeah, but yeah, I'll link the thing right now. So, what would I type in? Mixed reality glasses. Probably stuffing myself
I
up here.
suppose so.
City. I don't know. It's like he's like in a city. Hyper reality. It's called.
Oh, okay.
It was from 2 years ago. Hang on. Gonna be a bit weird here. This is what it is. I've just linked it then.
Oh, yep. Is this in? Where's this?
I don't know. This is like a thing that someone made. It's not real. It's like this is where I see.
Oh, okay. Oh,
This is
all
what
the colors and patterns. I've got so many things up at the moment, so I can't really see the full.
this is where I see.
I think that this is not necessarily too far from the truth of what it's going to be like, and I think it's going to be it's because having a smartphone completely changed how people acted.
Yeah.
And I think that this is going to be an equally strange thing for a lot of people. And with all that being said, like this is obviously a very far out kind of imagination, but a lot of this stuff is not going to be too far from the truth. And I think, like I said, what happens in the next couple of years is going to completely dictate what all this is actually like, whether all this is going to be the case, like what it's all going to look like, all that sort of thing. And I'm for one, I'm really excited for the future.
Yeah, so am I. What technology advancements will help with future game development? Do you think?
Look, hardware is always going to be the biggest thing, and I think that in terms of game development, it's kind of okay at the moment. I think the big thing is making sure that consumers can get their level of hardware that they need to play your game. And I think that's the biggest hurdle. I want people to play Double Shot, but people have to currently spend close to $2,500 if they don't have a PC and a headset.
Yeah.
And to me, that is absolutely ludicrous. So I think it is going to get to a point where that isn't the case anymore.
So, like, it'll just be a pair of glasses that have the hardware built in to them for a couple $100 eventually. Oh, yeah, like
I hope so.
a phone price.
Jewish people.
It'd be like
For like-
it'd just be like a phone, and in 10 years' time, this is where I'm going. Like I'm going full VR in the future. No,
Absolutely. Sorry, do you mind if I just quickly be right back? I'll just be 1 sec. Sorry about that.
yeah, no worries.
No, that's fine. No, I feel like oh, I can't wait. Oh, if it went into like a full dive system, like in Sword Art, I'd be happy with that. Just not getting
Oh,
trapped.
Yeah, not getting trapped. That would suck.
That's
But
someone wanted to kill me.
But going like having it online, like as you're walking down the street, would be cool too. I know,
That's crazy.
as Chris said that.
I'm gonna watch the video after this because wait, internet's going really fuzzy. So most of that I missed because it just kept going.
Oh yeah, that's
Silly.
alright. That's alright.
I could see your mouth moving, but nothing coming out. Yeah, like, it's just happened now, so I should have screenshotted that.
I'm doing that on purpose.
Yeah, I know you are, but like it actually froze on your mouth being like wide open because you were talking at the same time your mouth was open, so I knew.
Need to get some headphones, son.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm alright. Why?
I don't know.
I look fine like this.
This will just have to go up as it is. So just do little jigs,
Huh?
like intermission. Doop
Yeah.
doop 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 doop.
I wish we were editing this.
Doom, doom, doom. Hang on. You won't be able to hear it, but.
What are you doing?
You won't be able to hear it, so it doesn't matter.
I can hear you. Okay.
Don't worry about me. Here we go. Here we go.
Alright. What are you done? Oh,
Elevator music.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, it's elevator music.
Elevator music. Okay. Is that on your Spotify premium?
This is on YouTube.
I was joking. After this, I might play some Spider-Man again.
Spoody Man.
Some Spider-Man. Jesus Christ, it's 10 past 10.
Yep.
I'm not keeping Chris up.
I'm just jamming to my tunes here. Do do
Yeah.
do 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 do.
Oh, did you want to jump on 76 or no?
Let's see what time it is after.
Yeah. We'll leave it for tomorrow night or something. If you want.
We'll see what time we finish up. I should head to bed early tonight, but I won't, so. I feel fucked.
Yeah, it's alright. I gotta fucking do my assignment tomorrow.
To anybody listening right now, we are in intermission. This is where the jams are coming from. Make sure you go follow Chris from Aberrant Realities on his Twitter, which is Twitter at ABREALDEV AbRealDev. You can check them out on their website, aberrantrealities.com. ABERRANT realities.com. And you can check them out on their Steam store. Just type in Double Shot in the Steam store, and I'm assuming that will come up. I will check later. So make sure you go give them some love as we listen to this groovy elevator music.
But I can't hear them.
Hear what?
The elevator music.
I know you can't. I can though.
Oh.
Our
That's not fair.
listeners will be able to hear it as well. Oh yeah.
Sorry about that, gents.
Oh no worries. Just let me turn my
That's alright.
just let me turn my elevator music off. All right. I had some
Oh,
elevator.
that's great, Charlie.
I had some
Perfect.
had some elevator music going as we waited.
Oh my lord.
A nice little intermission in the podcast. That's good. I'm glad.
I
Time
mean,
to-
I gave your stuff a plug again there as well, so you lucked out.
yeah, I was happy to do that.
So all right, we'll continue then. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, what do we got? What do we got, Marshy? Oh, so
Well,
go on.
oh, okay. Are you going?
No, you're going.
Okay, sweet. Because my internet's going a bit fuzzy, so I didn't know if you were going or it just went up on me. So, would you have had to get double shot copyrighted, or do you think, or well, I would get it copyrighted, but was it like cheap or was it expensive or?
I don't
What-
think look, we own the IP for Double Shot. I don't think we're ever too worried about people copying our idea.
Yep.
People came close a couple of times, but no one quite really got our idea and our vision for the game. And look, I think at the end of the day, life imitates art. If your life is like Double Shot, then I have some serious concerns. But look, everyone gets inspired by everything, and
Yeah.
look, I'll wholeheartedly say that plagiarism ain't okay, but look, we took a lot of inspiration, a lot of ideas from a lot of other games, and I'm sure, well, I would be personally flattered if people took inspiration and ideas from our game, but
Yeah.
whether that happens or not is fine. Look, short answer to your question is, man, I'm just a game designer. I don't really look into that stuff too much.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But there is this big conversation around copywriting and merchandise and all that.
Yeah.
I think that it's important to cover all your bases.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, so you don't get a lawsuit for one.
So, Twitch recently did something with their musical stuff that you can't play music on their website anymore, or else you can get banned. So
Wow.
do you find it easy enough to gain musical artists that are willing to showcase their craft in your games, or do you use a royalty-free website, or a mixture of both?
We actually have a programmer who just super conveniently can write synthwave in his spare time. So
Oh, nice.
he literally just wrote the entire soundtrack for our game. We gave him the thumbs up, and he went back over to his little programming desk and kept on programming.
And Bob
He did a
Girardi.
really, really, really good job on the soundtrack. It was like there's some bangers in there. That's really interesting about Twitch, though. That's going to make things pretty boring, I imagine, for a lot of streamers to have to just sit there in
Like,
silence. And...
art streaming and stuff like that, it's gonna take a big hit on the art stream. So,
that's rough.
But like indie artists will benefit from that, because bigger art streamers will be able to play an indie artist on their stream.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they get permission from the artist, that Twitch can't do anything. But yeah, Twitch cracking down pretty hard over that. So I'm assuming there was something over
Pick up or something.
yeah, a lawsuit of some sort.
That's rough.
Yeah, definitely.
And it just ruined it for most people, really.
Like art streams and chill streams and stuff like that. Like even when I'm playing RuneScape on stream, sometimes that I just have music in the background because RuneScape's boring as shit.
Their games aren't that great. Their game sounds sorry.
Yeah.
They're very basic.
Have you ever played RuneScape, Chris?
I was an avid RuneScape player for most of my young teenage.
Yeah, that was hard.
I've just gotten back into it, so.
Once again, man, it's all coming around. It's all coming full circle of that whole nostalgia thing.
Yeah, and
100%.
especially with it just being released on mobile, RuneScape mobile. I'm like, yes, let's go. And now I've got to download it on my computer. And yeah, nostalgia 101.
All right, it's on mobile now as well.
Yeah, it's on mobile now.
That's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they did a really good
actually
job of
runs
it.
really good,
Yeah,
too.
they did a really good job on it. Like, it's not just a complete port. Like, it's a huge game in the end. Like, you think about like the map and stuff, it's huge. To have that,
and everything that's put into it.
to have that in a on a phone is pretty cool. Even though the graphics are a bit how you going?
But I don't know if that's on purpose or not, though, Luke, because it is old school RuneScape. Or are you talking about the actual normal one?
What are we going on about?
I thought it was still getting. I was talking about old school RuneScape because
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
they got the other.
No, I'm talking
The
about
new one
mobile.
on
I'm
there
talking
too,
about
right?
mobile RuneScape.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about too.
Yeah.
Because they've got the beta version of the normal one on there too.
Do they?
Yeah,
Oh,
I thought
no.
that's what you were talking about.
No shit.
I've seen it on there.
No shit. I didn't even know. Okay.
You can't get onto it because it's already full. I've tried.
I didn't even know they had a beta for the new RuneScape. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, it's a pre-registration.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
what
what
they
you
normally
want.
do with it.
A pre-reg.
What's that?
Well, just to have
So,
your
like-
game be so popular that you can't even get any more users onto it. I mean, it's terrible
Yeah.
for you, but it's a good sign that people really want to play.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely. Yeah.
Because I know they only allow a few for some of the games. Like there was one game that I downloaded, I pre-registered for it. Sorry, and then as soon as it come out release for us that are pre-registered, we got all these like special bonuses and things like that just for supporting the game. So it's it's a big thing in that. Now I look all the time for pre-registration.
But early adoption really helps games out a lot because it gives you a little bit of security that your user base is going to be there.
Yeah. So, did you have many people that what's it called on wishlisted your game on Steam?
More than we thought, and it was kind of cool to be able to get into Steam's backend or into the developer area, I should say. We're not delving directly into Steam's backend or anything like that, but to see all of the metrics associated with your game and to see where your players are, all that sort of cool stuff, who's wishlisting your game and all that. It helped us a lot.
Yeah.
To understand our audience.
I'm thinking, Daddy.
He's just losing his mind. I know what he's laughing at too. About going into their rear end. You are, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm a filthy animal.
Sorry, Chris.
You know what? I didn't even think about it when I said it. Now I'm thinking about it, and I'm losing my mind a little bit.
I'm a filthy animal. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Must be the.
Look, I promise not to delve into any more backends.
Okay, I'm composed.
So, yeah, it was really cool to see that part of it. It was cool to see all the people, like to see all the metrics of it. But
I'm terrible.
at the end of the day, I think
I knew he was going to start up.
yeah, that's all right. I think at the end of the day, we were kind of like, yeah, that's cool, and then we kind of moved on from it.
Yeah. So, the wish list, like, do many people buy it from the wish list, or is it just like people just wish list it to, I guess, keep in contact with the developer to see when it's released and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think a fair few people are probably waiting for it to come out of early access.
Yeah.
Because sometimes early access can be a complete crapshoot about whether you're actually going to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be buggy as shit.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying our game isn't buggy as shit, but I think we've been pretty transparent about, and I think that having that level of communication and transparency is what helps people understand that we're still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, going on, like, the transparency and people, and you receiving feedback and stuff like that. So, it can be profitable to be a little bit offensive sometimes. Yeah, yet the smallest infraction can snowball into a huge problem. With stuff like Nintendo recently removing the feather from Mr. Game & Watch. I'm not sure if you've heard about that.
Well, I'm not.
Okay, so Nintendo got a little bit of backlash from consumers that Mr. Game & Watch had an Indian feather on his head during a special move. I'm not quite sure where he had it, but he had a feather that represented the Indian American race, and obviously they removed it before the game was released. This is Super Smash Brothers. Have you ever experienced this while creating a game, creating Double Shot?
Oh, look, there's not really that much to be offended about in Double Shot. We never went through and were like, here's where we're going to put the super offensive stuff. I think that understanding what it is that you do that is offensive is important. And I think listening to your community and saying, look, you know, we need to dial this back, we need to do this, whatever.
Yep.
I think for us, we haven't done anything like that. We haven't made anything that was particularly offensive, and that's fine by us.
Yeah.
We want to keep it that way. We want to keep being cool. We want to keep being happy. But yeah, look, I think that, and especially now that there's more of an understanding about, and or there needs to be anyway, more of an understanding, more of a kind of cultural shift into being a lot more respectful of people. I think that it's good that things like that happen, and I think it's also important that it becomes a teachable moment, that it becomes something for people to learn from. And at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes. I think a lot of it comes down to how we react to those mistakes.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, so
100%.
But look, we removed all the super offensive stuff from Double Shot very early. Like there's no drugs, even though I really wanted drugs, and you know. Well, anyway, that's another hill for me to die on another time. But I think that there's a certain, and especially with how content is a lot more kind of agnostic in terms of what's allowed on Steam nowadays. But there was a time period there where it was like you had to be pretty careful.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that's how it was.
Yeah, and it's how it is now. People are offended by a little bit too much sometimes, and I guess that's okay. They can be offended by whatever they want to be offended by.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets a little bit too political, and egos kind of start. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I just sit there in my spreadsheets. I don't really want to.
Yeah.
I don't really want to start anything.
I agree 100% that it's too much hassle to dive into that, and it's just easier sometimes to say, okay, yeah, whatever, I'll do that to keep them happy, sort of thing, I guess, at the end of the day.
And look, I'm always going to listen to what people have to say, so
yeah, and whether
it's no skin off my teeth.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, it might even improve your game, or you'll go, you're an idiot, sort of thing, or a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
This might be a bit off topic, but what would be the best software to start with game design development? Is there anything in particular, or is it just kind of more preference?
It's all down to preference at the end of the day. I think that there's so many pieces of software out there now that it's like it's a lot easier to pick it up. I think the easiest one to start off with is something like Game Maker.
Okay. Yep.
We use Unity.
Yep.
A lot of people swear by Unreal Engine. Look, just have a play around with it all, and you'll quickly work out what it is exactly that you're comfortable with.
Nothing. I'm terrible at
all.
I tried to. What was it? I think I downloaded Unity, and I had no idea what I was doing, so I deleted it. Like I had no idea. Like I couldn't even draw a line.
There's a heck of a lot of reading involved when you're starting to learn these. There's just so much.
Yeah.
And Googling.
Yeah. Like I
do a
was
lot of research.
I was well over my head. So, what else we got, Marshy?
Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we finish up? Because I think we've been going for a fair bit of time at the moment.
Look, thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to me bloody rant just about anything that I can think of.
Ranting is good for us.
It's always really cathartic to just be able to come out and just like
unleash,
splurge all about the things that have been in your mind for the past few weeks of just like
yeah.
And look, ever since PAX, there was just so much to think about, and man, PAX was awesome. Melbourne was an awesome city. Yeah, like just even the food. And I was absolutely enamored.
And then Crown next door.
yeah. Well, look, I'm not a high roller. I usually
Oh,
buy
I meant
scratch.
beers.
Well, yeah, of course, could have gone there. Look, I was going to say, I usually buy a scratchy once a year, but um, didn't really want to risk losing it all in Melbourne. No, look, we were staying just up the road actually, and
Oh, really?
it's such a nice city to get around.
Yeah.
It's very
like,
grid.
it's like you can't possibly get lost. Went to GG Easy Bar.
Yeah. We were
awesome little place.
we tried to get in there, but it was so
The
packed.
wine was massive.
Yeah.
I can imagine it would have been packed. We went the week before.
Oh
and
yeah.
we went kind of at the end. We were basically all just sitting there drinking, and they threw on Dota for me. I was like, "Come on, man, can we watch some Dota?" And he was like, "Yeah," and he just put it on for me, and it was like, it was heaven, man. It's such a nice place.
Yeah.
And look, just Melbourne in general was awesome. Amazing fur place down the road. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
What was it?
Like Pho PHO.
Oh yeah, no idea.
Oh yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, look, there was just the most amazing place down the road, and it was just like, it's probably the part I'm going to miss the most about Melbourne is all that good food. But yeah, look, anyway, yeah, I think that's about all I got to say on that topic.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you coming on.
Always happy to.
So do I. It's great insight.
Yeah.
Everything, really.
Yeah, you a lot of interesting information and good information, of course. That
everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt because
you're talking from your experience and
and who knows whether what I say is actually true or not.
Well, it's true for your story, you know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So to anybody that's listened, make sure you do go follow Aberrant Realities on their Twitter. You can follow them at ABREALDEV, AbRealDev, and you can check out their website at Aberrant Realities, ABERRANT Realities REALITIES.com. Not an AU. I don't think it's an AU. Just a .com.
No AU. Just .com.
Yeah, and make sure if you do have a VR system, Chris did mention that it should work on the mixed reality headsets.
Oh, don't quote me on that. It should. It should.
Yeah. Make sure you do go follow this Steam store. You can type in Double Shot in the Steam search bar, or you can type in store.steampowder.com/app/869950. I'll do that again. app/8695550/double_shot/. Make sure, go show them some love, guys. I'd appreciate it very much. And thank you.
Or we'll just provide the link to that underneath the video.
Yeah, and we'll provide the link. We'll provide links. Don't worry, guys. If you can't understand what I said, there'll be links down the bottom. Make sure you do go check them out. And yeah,
we're signing out. I guess that's it from us.
Yeah. All right. So here's my little outro. Boom. Doo doo boom boom. Boo doo 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 boop 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 boop.
You copyrighted again, mate.
I did.
I swear that's Mario.
It's not Mario. It's a mixture.
There's a little hint of it.